My parents rejected my 5K. Costa Rica gift for anniversary, then demanded 15K. More. I'm Brooke, a 32-year-old marketing executive in Chicago. For 6 months, I saved every extra dollar to give my parents their dream 35th anniversary gift, a $5,000 vacation to Costa Rica. I'll never forget their faces when I presented it at dinner. Instead of gratitude, they criticized everything about it. Then came the crushing blow. Dad pulled out his phone, showed me a $20,000 package, and said I should pay the $15,000 difference. Before I share what happened that night, let me know where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you've ever gone above and beyond for family, only to have it thrown back in your face. Growing up as an only child, I always felt this immense pressure to meet my parents' expectations. My dad, Thomas, and mom, Linda, weren't the warm and fuzzy type. Their love came with conditions always tied to my achievements and how well I could make them look good to their friends and colleagues. I remember bringing home a report card with straight A's and 1 B+ in 8th grade. Instead of celebrating the A's, my dad focused solely on the B+, asking what went wrong and how I could fix it. My mom would chime in with stories about the neighbor's daughter who never got anything less than perfect grades. It was never enough. When it came time for college, I had hoped they would help with tuition, since they both had well-paying jobs. My dad worked as a financial advisor, and my mom was a real estate agent in an upscale Chicago suburb. They owned a beautiful home and took lavish vacations, but when it came to my education, they offered minimal support. "We worked for everything we have, Brooke. You need to learn the value of hard work too," my dad would say. So I worked. I took out student loans and worked 20 hours a week at the campus coffee shop, while maintaining a full course load. I graduated with honors and landed an entry-level position at a marketing firm. Over the next 10 years, I climbed the corporate ladder, eventually becoming an executive with a comfortable salary. Still, I lived frugally, paying off my student loans and saving for a down payment on a house. Through all of this, I kept trying to earn my parents' approval. Every promotion, every achievement I would share with them, hoping for genuine pride. They would acknowledge it briefly before moving on to what I should accomplish next. It was like running on a hamster wheel, constantly moving but never reaching the destination. When I heard my parents talking about Costa Rica during our monthly dinner at their house last year, something clicked. They kept mentioning how their friends had gone and how it was their dream destination. "The rainforests, the beaches, the luxury resorts," my mom would sigh. "That's what a proper vacation looks like." Their 35th wedding anniversary was coming up in 6 months, and I saw my opportunity. I would give them the gift they had been dreaming of, something so special that they couldn't possibly find fault with it. This would be the gesture that finally earned their unqualified approval. Despite my own financial goals of saving for a house, I decided to redirect my savings toward this special gift. $5,000 would be tight, but surely they would appreciate the sacrifice and thoughtfulness. Little did I know how wrong I would be. I spent months researching Costa Rica vacation packages, determined to find the perfect combination of luxury and experiences within my budget. During lunch breaks, I'd browse travel websites. After work, I'd call different travel agencies for quotes and recommendations. I wanted everything to be perfect. To save the $5,000, I took on extra marketing projects at work, earning bonuses while sacrificing my evenings and weekends. I cut out my small luxuries: no more takeout coffees, no new clothes, no dinners out with friends. Every dollar saved went into my Costa Rica fund. After 3 months of research, I finally found what seemed perfect: a 7-day package at a beautiful resort near Manuel Antonio National Park. It included a rainforest tour, a sunset catamaran cruise, and daily breakfast at the beachfront restaurant. The resort wasn't the absolute top-tier 5-star, but it had excellent reviews, beautiful rooms with ocean views, and was well within striking distance of all the activities they had mentioned wanting to do. I worked with the travel agent to create a detailed itinerary, making sure to include all the experiences my parents had talked about. I requested a room with the best view available and added a special anniversary dinner on the beach. The total came to $4,980. practically my entire budget. When the confirmation came through, I felt such excitement. I ordered a beautiful presentation box and printed out glossy photos of the resort and activities. I included a detailed itinerary on heavy cardstock paper with gold lettering. Everything looked elegant and expensive. I even added a handwritten note expressing how much they meant to me and how happy I was to give them this experience. My best friend Amanda came over to see the finished gift box. "This is gorgeous, Brooke," she said, admiring the presentation. "But," she hesitated. "But what?" I asked. "I just want to make sure you're prepared for their reaction. You know how your parents can be." Amanda had witnessed firsthand how critical my parents could be. She'd been there for the tearful phone calls after family gatherings where nothing I did seemed good enough. "This is different," I insisted. "This is exactly what they've been talking about wanting. I've thought of everything." Amanda gave me a concerned look but didn't push further. "I hope you're right. You deserve to have them appreciate this incredible gift." As the anniversary date approached, I made reservations at Costello, one of the most expensive Italian restaurants in Chicago. My parents loved to dine at prestigious places, and I wanted the evening to be special from start to finish. I imagined the scene, the elegant dinner presenting the beautiful gift box, their faces lighting up with surprise and joy, finally receiving the approval and love I'd been seeking for so long. The day before the dinner, I could barely focus at work. I kept imagining the perfect scenario: my parents would be so touched by my generosity that our relationship would transform. They would finally see me as the successful daughter I had become, worthy of their unconditional love and approval. This gift would heal the wounds of the past and create a new foundation for our future relationship. That night, I laid out my outfit, a new black dress I had splurged on despite my budget constraints. I wanted to look successful and polished. I practiced what I would say when I presented the gift. Everything had to be perfect. Tomorrow would change everything. The evening started promisingly. Costello's ambiance was everything I had hoped for: dim lighting, white tablecloths, attentive servers. I arrived 15 minutes early to make sure everything was perfect. The gift box was in a shopping bag by my feet, and I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as I waited. My parents arrived exactly on time, dressed impeccably as always. My mom wore a designer dress I recognized from their Christmas card, and my dad was in a tailored suit with a pocket square that matched my mom's outfit perfectly. They looked like they had stepped out of a luxury lifestyle magazine. "Brooke, darling," my mother air-kissed both my cheeks. "You look nice. Is that dress new?" Before I could answer, my dad cut in. "The valet service here is excellent. Much better than that place you chose for your birthday last year." And just like that, the criticism had begun, but I was determined not to let it affect the evening. "I'm so glad you both could make it. Happy anniversary. 35 years is amazing." The first part of dinner went smoothly. We ordered appetizers and wine, and I listened as they talked about their friends' recent achievements and acquisitions. Mrs. Johnson's son had just made partner at his law firm. The Smiths had purchased a vacation home in the Hamptons. I smiled and nodded, waiting for the right moment. After the main course, as we were waiting for dessert, I finally gathered my courage. "I have something special for your anniversary," I said, reaching down for the gift box. My heart pounded as I placed it on the table between them. "You didn't have to get us anything," my mother said, though her tone suggested the opposite. "I wanted to. This is something I've been planning for months." I pushed the box toward them. "Go ahead, open it." My dad opened the box first, his expression neutral as he examined the contents. My mom leaned over to look, and I waited for their faces to light up with excitement. Instead, there was a pause. A long, uncomfortable pause. "Costa Rica," my dad finally said, his tone flat. "Yes, you've been talking about wanting to go there for so long. I found an amazing package at this beautiful resort." I reached over to point out the pictures. "Look, it has an ocean view room and includes all these experiences you mentioned wanting to try." My mother picked up the itinerary card, studying it with a slight frown. This is the Manuel Antonio Resort. I thought we talked about wanting to stay at the Four Seasons in Peninsula Papagayo. Well, the Four Seasons was significantly more expensive, I explained, feeling the first twist of anxiety in my stomach. But this resort has amazing reviews, and it's in a perfect location for all the activities. My dad was scrolling through his phone now, barely looking at the gift. These flights are economy, he asked, glancing at the itinerary. Yes, but it's a direct flight, and I made sure to request comfortable seats with extra legroom, I said, my voice starting to sound strained even to my own ears. At our age, economy for a 4-hour flight is quite uncomfortable, my mother said with a sigh. Caroline and Michael always fly business class to the Caribbean, and that's a shorter flight. I felt my cheeks growing warm. I tried to balance the flight with the quality of the resort and experiences. The package includes a private rainforest tour and a sunset catamaran cruise, which you both mentioned wanting to do. The thing is, Brooke, my dad said, setting down the itinerary, this resort is only 4 stars. For a special anniversary trip, we were really hoping for a true 5-star experience. I could feel the eyes of nearby diners occasionally glancing our way, adding to my discomfort. The waiter arrived with our desserts, creating a brief reprieve from the tension. But as soon as he left, my mother continued. It's a very nice thought, dear, but this package seems a bit basic for such an important anniversary. Basic $5,000 was basic. I had sacrificed for months to afford this gift. I thought it looked really beautiful, I said quietly. The reviews were excellent, and it has all the experiences you talked about wanting. Reviews can be misleading, my dad said dismissively. Our friends the Wilsons stayed at a highly reviewed place in Bali last year and said it was completely overrated. With each comment, I felt smaller and smaller. The gift I had been so proud of, that I had sacrificed so much for, was being picked apart piece by piece. The dessert in front of me remained untouched as my appetite disappeared. The real issue, my father continued, his voice taking on that familiar lecturing tone that made me feel like a child again, is that this package is simply below our standards for travel. My mother nodded in agreement. Jennifer and Robert went to Costa Rica for their 30th anniversary, and their children arranged a much more luxurious experience. Private villa, personal chef, helicopter tours. My throat tightened. Those things were way beyond my budget. I saved for months to afford this package. Well, my father said, pulling out his phone again, since you brought up the subject of Costa Rica, we actually have been looking into packages ourselves. He turned his phone toward me, showing a web page for what was clearly an ultra-luxury Costa Rica experience. The images showed a stunning private villa perched on a cliff overlooking the ocean, with an infinity pool that seemed to merge with the horizon. This is the kind of experience that would be appropriate for a 35th anniversary, he explained, scrolling through more images of opulent accommodations and exclusive experiences. $20,000 for a 10-day package. I stared at him, momentarily speechless. $20,000, Dad. That's 4 times what I budgeted for your gift. Which brings me to a suggestion, he continued as if I hadn't spoken. Since you've already expressed interest in giving us a Costa Rica trip, perhaps you could contribute the $5,000 you've already budgeted, and we could discuss you covering the difference. It would be the perfect anniversary gift. The difference. $15,000 more. My entire house down payment savings. I don't have an additional $15,000, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. My mother reached across the table to pat my hand in a gesture that felt more condescending than comforting. I thought with your executive position, you would be doing better financially by now. A truly successful daughter at your age should be able to afford a proper gift for such an important occasion. The words hit me like a physical blow. A truly successful daughter. After everything I had accomplished, after all the sacrifices I had made, I still wasn't enough. I can't believe this, I said, fighting back tears. I spent months planning this gift. I took on extra work. I cut back on everything to save for this, and it's still not good enough. There's no need to get emotional in public, Brooke, my father said, glancing around at the other diners. We're simply having a discussion about travel standards. No, I said, my voice shaking. We're having a discussion about how nothing I do will ever be good enough for you. My mother sighed dramatically. You're overreacting as usual. We're just being honest about our expectations. I felt something breaking inside me, but also something strengthening at the same time. Years of trying to please them, years of never quite measuring up, all came into crystal clear focus in that moment. The restaurant seemed to go quiet around us, though I knew it was just my heightened awareness of our increasingly tense conversation. My father's face had that familiar look of disappointment that had haunted me throughout my childhood and adult years. If the gift isn't adequate, he said coldly, perhaps you should just take it back. There's no point in us accepting something that doesn't meet our standards. My mother nodded in agreement, adding, we wouldn't want to seem ungrateful, but it really wouldn't be the experience we were hoping for. I sat there looking at both of them, truly seeing them perhaps for the first time. These two people who had raised me, who should have been my biggest supporters, had never actually seen me at all. They saw only a reflection of themselves, a vehicle for their own status and ambitions. In that moment, something shifted inside me. A lifetime of seeking approval suddenly seemed like a tragic waste of energy. I had built a successful career, formed meaningful friendships, created a life I could be proud of, all while carrying the weight of their disapproval. And for what? You know what? I said, my voice suddenly calm and clear. You're right. I should take it back. They looked momentarily surprised by my agreement. For years, I continued, I've been trying to earn your approval. I worked my way through college because you wouldn't help. I built my career from nothing. I've achieved things I'm genuinely proud of. And still nothing is ever enough for you. I reached for the gift box and pulled it back toward me. This gift represented months of sacrifice. I gave up things I wanted and needed to give you something special. But I realize now that nothing I could ever give would be good enough, because the problem isn't the gift. It's that you're incapable of appreciating anything that doesn't match your inflated sense of entitlement. My father's face reddened. Now see here, Brooke. There's no need to be disrespectful. It's not disrespect, Dad. It's honesty. Something you claim to value. I put the gift box back in the shopping bag. I'm taking this trip myself, with someone who will actually appreciate it. Don't be ridiculous, my mother hissed, aware of the attention we were now drawing from nearby tables. You're making a scene. No, I'm making a choice. For once, I'm choosing myself. I stood up. Legs slightly shaky, but resolve firm. I've already paid for dinner. Consider that my anniversary gift. It should meet your standards, since this is one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. My parents stared at me, completely speechless. In all my 32 years, I had never stood up to them like this. I had never claimed my own power in the face of their criticism. I hope you have a happy anniversary, I said, gathering my purse and the shopping bag with the gift box. When you're ready to have a relationship based on mutual respect, rather than constant judgment, let me know. And with that, I walked out of the restaurant feeling both terrified and exhilarated. For the first time in my life, I had chosen my own self-worth over their approval. The drive home was a blur of tears and emotions. By the time I reached my apartment, I was shaking. I barely made it through the door before collapsing onto my couch, the gift box still clutched in my hands. Years of pent-up emotions poured out of me. Anger at their constant criticism. Grief for the supportive parents I never had. Relief at finally standing up for myself. It was overwhelming, like a dam breaking after years of carefully contained pressure. When the first wave of emotion passed, I called Amanda. It was almost 11 at night, but she answered immediately. How did it go? She asked, and I could hear the hope in her voice. I took a shuddering breath. Terrible. Worse than you can imagine. I recounted the evening through fresh tears, describing their dismissal of my gift and the outrageous suggestion that I contribute $15,000 more. Those entitled ungrateful. Amanda didn't finish her sentence, but her outrage on my behalf was comforting. Brooke, I'm so sorry. But honestly, I'm proud of you for standing up to them. That took incredible courage. I don't know if it was courage or just finally reaching my breaking point, I admitted. But I told them I'm taking the trip myself. Good, Amanda exclaimed. You absolutely should. And you know what, I'll come with you. We'll have an amazing time without any negative energy. For the first time that evening, I felt a glimmer of excitement. Really? You'd come with me? In a heartbeat. Those beaches and rainforests will be way more enjoyable without your parents complaining about everything not being 5-star enough. After we hung up, I sat staring at the gift box. The trip I had planned with such hope and excitement now represented something entirely different: my Declaration of Independence. The next morning, I called in sick to work, something I rarely did. I needed time to process what had happened and decide on my next steps. My phone showed several missed calls and messages from my parents, but I wasn't ready to talk to them yet. Their voicemails followed a predictable pattern. First came indignation at my inappropriate behavior at the restaurant, then attempts to explain that they were only trying to help me understand proper standards. Finally, guilt trips about how I had ruined their anniversary dinner. Not once did they acknowledge how hurtful their behavior had been. After a few days of reflection, I made 2 important decisions. First, I booked an appointment with a therapist specializing in family relationship dynamics. I needed professional help to process years of emotional manipulation and establish healthier boundaries. Second, I called the travel agency and changed the reservation from my parents' names to mine and Amanda's, adjusting the dates to match our vacation time. The agent was understanding and made the changes with minimal fees. Over the next few weeks, my parents continued their attempts to contact me. I responded with brief, polite texts letting them know I needed space. My mother tried to guilt me by saying they were deeply hurt by my behavior. My father attempted to frame it as me misunderstanding their intentions. I held firm to my boundaries, something that felt foreign but empowering. In therapy, I began unpacking the patterns that had defined our relationship for decades. I realized that my parents' approval had been the measuring stick for my self-worth for as long as I could remember. Every achievement, every decision had been filtered through the question, will this make them proud of me? It was exhausting, and as my therapist helped me see, ultimately futile. When the time came for the Costa Rica trip, Amanda and I packed our bags with excitement. The resort that my parents had dismissed as not 5-star enough welcomed us with warm hospitality and breathtaking views. Our ocean view room was beautiful, the staff attentive, and the experiences memorable. We hiked through the rainforest, spotting monkeys and exotic birds. We kayaked in crystal-clear waters and watched the sunset from a catamaran. We ate fresh seafood with our feet in the sand. Without the pressure to ensure everything met impossible standards, I was free to simply enjoy the experience. One evening, as we sat on the beach watching the sunset, Amanda turned to me. I've never seen you this relaxed before. You seem lighter somehow. She was right. Without the weight of seeking approval, I felt like a different person. The constant anxiety that had been my companion for so long had diminished. I was learning to trust my own judgment, to value my own experiences without the filter of my parents' expectations. That trip became a powerful symbol of my journey towards self-worth and independence. I took hundreds of photos, not to prove anything to anyone else, but to remember how it felt to finally choose myself. 6 months after that fateful anniversary dinner, my relationship with my parents had undergone a significant transformation. After returning from Costa Rica, I maintained my boundaries while slowly opening communication on my terms. The first meeting was difficult. We met at a neutral coffee shop, and I came prepared with notes from my therapy sessions to help me stay focused. When my mother immediately tried to revert to our old dynamic, criticizing my choice of venue, I calmly stated that if the conversation couldn't be respectful, I would leave. I'm not willing to be treated as less than or have my choices constantly criticized, I explained. I value our relationship, but it needs to be based on mutual respect. My father seemed genuinely surprised by my firmness. For perhaps the first time, they were seeing me as an adult with my own boundaries, not just an extension of themselves. Progress was slow and inconsistent. There were setbacks when they would fall into old patterns, and I would have to remind them of my boundaries. Sometimes this meant ending phone calls early or postponing visits. It wasn't easy, but I remained committed to creating a healthier relationship. Therapy helped me understand that my parents' behavior stemmed from their own insecurities and the way they were raised. My grandmother had been extremely critical of my father, and he had internalized that approach. My mother had grown up with parents who valued status above all else. Understanding these patterns didn't excuse their behavior, but it helped me respond with clarity rather than emotional reactivity. Gradually, something unexpected began to happen. As I stopped seeking their approval and lived my life on my own terms, they started to see me differently. When I purchased my first home, a modest but charming condo, I didn't seek their input or approval. I simply invited them to a housewarming party. To my surprise, my mother brought a thoughtful gift, and my father commented positively on my financial decision-making. The real breakthrough came when my mother called one evening, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "I've been thinking about what happened with the Costa Rica gift," she said. "I didn't handle it well. We didn't handle it well." It wasn't exactly an apology, but for my mother it was significant. "No, you didn't," I agreed, not rushing to make her feel better as I would have in the past. "The photos you shared from your trip, it looked lovely," she continued. "Perhaps we were too quick to judge." That small acknowledgement meant more than any grand apology could have. It was a sign that perhaps they were capable of growth too. My relationship with my parents will never be perfect. They still have moments of criticism and judgment, but now I have the tools to respond in healthy ways. Sometimes that means setting a boundary. Other times it means simply not internalizing their opinions. The greatest gift from that painful experience wasn't just standing up for myself in the moment, but learning that my value doesn't come from their approval. I've built a life I'm proud of with meaningful work, genuine friendships, and the freedom to make my own choices without the weight of impossible expectations. In an unexpected way, their rejection of my gift gave me something priceless, the push I needed to break free from a lifetime of seeking validation from people incapable of giving it freely. Sometimes the most painful experiences lead to the most important growth. If you're caught in a similar cycle of trying to earn love or approval that always seems just out of reach, know that you deserve better. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's ability to see it. The most important approval will always be your own. What toxic relationship patterns have you broken free from in your life? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Remember, sometimes the greatest act of love is setting boundaries both for yourself and for others. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you find the courage to write your own.